Hey, child. He calls me his child. Dusty Rose. I guess it's been about 10 months now. 10 months in Tokyo is a long time. It's been amazing, and it's also been one of the hardest things I've ever done. Last couple months especially have been really rough. For that reason, I'm actually in like a couple days going back home for a couple weeks, and maybe that means that I do a little extra reading. We're gonna see, because it's about me resting. And sometimes this is restful and sometimes not, depending on how I feel. It makes me feel productive. It makes me feel a little less despairing about the world. Like when I feel kind of despair about the world, I reach for one of these and I start reading it out loud on YouTube. That's just one of my responses. My point being, if you see a totally radically different background in the next few videos, I think I'm gonna record one right now, but you know, within the next few videos, you might see a radically different background, and then here, it's because I went back to visit family for a couple of weeks. It's shocking how real a thing homesickness is. Like, we call it homesickness, and in my head it was kind of a vague term for lonely, miss family, and it's like, okay, and the emotions are all over the place, and I can't sleep right, and after a while it starts getting so bad it's mimicking actual illness in some areas. So hoping a visit fixes a few things. Right, there is another thing I wanted to mention, which is that so it's been a really long time since I read War Nerd, and I'm reading it based off of remembering my impressions. And also, so far, everything I've read in War Nerd is new material, because the Kindle edition actually has extra chapters than the physical book, which is what I originally read. I'm still in new material, as far as I remember. I don't remember anything. I don't remember reading anything previously that I have currently put up. I have to confess, I am extremely uncomfortable sometimes with what I'm reading, but that was also my impression when I first read the book. Extremely uncomfortable, highly entertained, and confronted. And really the confronted bit is the reason I picked this. Because even though there are, the color commentary unsettles me, and bits of the color commentary I strongly disagree with. I'm not going to tell you which ones, it's just there are things that I am reading that I disagree with. But the thread I most strongly agree with is confronting the notion that all countries think the same way the US does. And this book kind of punches that idea in the face with brass knuckles, with spiked brass knuckles. It really is hubris to believe that other countries have the same priorities that we do underneath, that they think the same way and have the same goals, and that within a country the factions, you know, all really want the same thing. And really, again, I want to highlight that's why I'm reading this book, because that's the thing that this book confronted in me that I wanted to share, is like, no, actually. I'm nowhere near the end of any of these, so I ought not be speculating about what the next book is going to be. But she said, and proceeded to do it anyways. Probably I'd say the top two contenders are the long-teased Screwtape Letters and Freakonomics, actually. My husband kind of advised me not to do Freakonomics for a while because it's so well known, and like maybe I shouldn't be doing this for books that are more well known and whose authors are still alive. At the same time, it's like, well, Freakonomics was actually a pretty important piece of the puzzle for me, and it was fascinating, and I might end up on this channel. I'll risk it. Probably. There are a few other contenders. I actually am starting to run a list. I'll link it below. On my Goodreads, I'm running a bookshelf for what I might read on YouTube if I think it's interesting or important enough, or like one of those like important books to me in my journey that I would want to share with other people. Slightly below those two would be Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools, which I recently read. Got some interesting insight into the way the church has viewed prayer over time, but kind of put into modern language. It's really hard for me to read people like St. Augustine. Like I read Confessions and I understood maybe a third of it. So this is a modern pastor taking lessons from the early fathers and about prayer and using them in his own life and then talking about that. And I found it to be extremely good and helpful. I have not been able to keep up the practices, but I actually, since I got it first on Audible, I actually ended up getting it on my Kindle because it's like, I want to go through it again. I want to highlight things. I want to soak in some of these later in the future, but also ended up on my, might read this on the channel, sort of. So anyways, there's a bookshelf for that. Oh, right, okay, I forgot to mention, haha. Okay, so this was falling apart. Like it was really, you can't really see it, but it was really not doing well. So I have a new cover now. So it's the same books I've been reading. Don't judge the book by its new cover. But yeah, so it's gonna look like this now. Oh, my husband and I actually took the N5 on Sunday. For those of you who don't know, Japan administers, the government administers Japanese language tests a couple times a year. It's the N1, the N2, the N3, the N4, and the N5. The N5 is the easiest level. N1 is like you're reading novels in Japanese level. So we took the N5. As my husband says, we someday aspire to understand the verbal instructions. We have no idea if we passed. We'll know in a month or two, actually 2 or 3 months. I am continuing to make hats. I've got 9 hats now, 2 long, wide scarves, and several handmade scrunchies, and I use them to decorate the wall. My wall is slowly becoming more colorful. I like that. Trying to think what else to say, kind of coming up short, but thanks for sticking around, even though it's extremely intermittent. This might be the hardest I've ever worked to do something. Learning the Japanese language. It takes more focus and intensity even than writing the novel. Writing the novel, when I was writing The Romaro Phenomenon and working on it, it was like being in a perpetual dream state and trying to capture that in a Word document. I've never been more present to real life than I have in these last, I've been here 10 months, but I've been learning for about 6 or 7 months. I've never been more present than I have in these. No, I've been pretty present since I came here. So let's say 10 months, actually, because the first 2 or 3 months, even though I wasn't learning Japanese, the daily amount of things we had to do to get everything in order kept me very present. And it's had very interesting effects. Let's just put it that way. Some very good and some rather detrimental, but there's a lot that I'm learning, both in the language and in life right now. And if you're interested in any more thoughts about that, I will put a link to the channel where I read from my personal blog. I think that's it. Again, I really appreciate your patience. I hope you guys are having a gentle year. I hope that in spite of the fact that we live in interesting times, and I really, really, really hate that curse, that you are finding a way to ride every wave, and that even when you are tumbled by a wave, you find a way to break back up to the surface, because that's what counts, that you keep getting back up. いい週末を気をつけて. Until next time.